Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to dive into Google's Gemma 4. It's a brand new toolkit of open models, and it's really built from the ground out for developers who are creating the next wave of AI.
So let's just start with this pretty bold claim from the CEO of Google DeepMind, because Gemma 4 isn't just some minor update. No, this is a really big shift towards AI that's powerful, private, and accessible enough to run right on your own hardware.
So in this explainer, here's what we're going to do. We're going to follow a developer's journey. We'll start with what you get right out of the box, and we'll go all the way to building some seriously intelligent agents. AIs that can see, think, and even act.
All right, let's get right into it. The first thing to understand is that Gemma 4 is so much more than just another chatbot. It's a whole toolkit for building the next generation of AI applications.
And the key thing to get here is that these aren't just a random list of features that were tacked on. These are foundational capabilities designed for creating AI agents. That means AIs that can actually do things. They can handle all sorts of data types and really long conversations. And maybe best of all, it's all under that commercially friendly Apache 2.0 license, which is a huge deal for developers who want to build and sell their own products with this stuff.
Now, what's really cool is how flexible Gemma 4 is. It's designed to scale across a massive range of hardware, from something as small as a Raspberry Pi all the way up to a huge server cluster.
And this table just lays it all out perfectly. You've basically got 4 main flavors, and each one is cooked up for a specific job. You've got the small E models for your phone or laptop, and then the bigger 26 and 31 billion parameter models for beefy workstations in the cloud. So you can really see the trade-off here, right? On one hand, you have the E2B model. It offers incredible privacy and speed right on your device. It even handles audio. And get this, it runs on less than 1.5 gigs of RAM. It's amazing. On the other hand, the 31B gives you that state-of-the-art reasoning power for the toughest jobs, but you're going to need a much more powerful setup for it.
Okay, so let's get into the architecture because this is where things get really cool. How does Gemma 4 manage to process hundreds of pages of text? We're talking an entire codebase or a novel in a single go. That 256,000 token window is massive. Since a token is roughly 3/4 of a word, it's just a mind-boggling amount of information to process at once.
The secret sauce here is something called hybrid attention. The best way to think about it is like this. You're giving the model both a magnifying glass to see the fine details and a wide-angle lens to see the whole big picture. And it can use both at the same time.
So here's how it actually works. For most of the time, the model is using this really fast sliding window to focus on small chunks of text. It's super efficient. But then, at key moments, it zooms all the way out to look at the entire document. This makes sure it understands the overall context and doesn't miss how things are connected. This hybrid approach is what lets Gemma 4 tear through huge documents so fast without losing accuracy.
And for those moments when it does zoom out to see the big picture, there's another secret weapon called proportional rope. You can just think of it as a special trick that stops the model from getting lost or confused when it's dealing with a really, really long document. It's what makes sure it can keep track of everything across that entire 256,000 token window.
Okay, so we know how it reads, but what about how it thinks? Well, Gemma 4 has this really cool built-in mode for chain-of-thought reasoning that literally lets you see its work. And get this, turning it on is as easy as adding one single @think token to your prompt. That's it. This tells the model to show its step-by-step reasoning before it gives you the final answer. It's fantastic for debugging and for building trust in what the AI is telling you.
Okay, but here's a super important pro tip for all you developers out there. You have to strip out that thought block from the chat history. If you don't, the model can get really confused in long conversations because it keeps rereading its own internal monologue. All right, now let's talk about one of Gemma's most powerful features, its native ability to actually see and understand images and even video. So, when you're feeding it an image, the very first question you have to ask yourself is this one. Because Gemma 4 actually lets you control the trade-off between speed and how much visual detail it pays attention to. And you control this with what's called a visual token budget. It's pretty straightforward. If you're doing something quick, like captioning a video, where you just need the gist of what's happening, you use a low budget. But if you needed to do something like read the tiny text on a scanned document, you crank that budget way up to 1120 for maximum detail. Just a couple of quick best practices for you here. For video, think of it as a flipbook. Just feed it a sequence of individual frames. Usually, about 1 frame per second is plenty. And here's a big one. For the best results, always put your image or audio data before the text in your prompt. Look, an AI that can think is awesome, but an AI that can act, that is a total game changer. And this is where we get into building real AI agents. Gemma has this built-in support for something called function calling, and it follows this really simple 4-step dance. First, you define the tools it can use. Second, the model asks to use one. Third, your code runs it. And fourth, the model uses that result to give the user an answer. It lets you connect the AI to basically any API or external tool you can dream up.
Now, this is absolutely crucial to understand. You, the developer, are always in the driver's seat. The AI is a reasoning engine that suggests actions for your app to take. You are the one who decides if and when any of that code actually runs.
So that brings us to the end of our explainer. What we've seen is that Gemma 4 gives developers this incredible toolkit for building AI that can see, think, and act, all running privately and efficiently on local devices. And that leaves us with just one really exciting question. What will you build?